You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast.
Did you lose your voice?
I'm
Mo,
just
did
trying to stay calm.
you?
I'm just trying to stay calm. I've been seeing some things that made me angry. So now I'm trying to stay calm. This show is brought to you by NBA 2K24. It's myself, Mo Mutsi, alongside his
Oh,
host,
this is
BJ
going to be a
Armstrong.
good one. This is going to be a good one.
BJ, take it away. I've been screaming at my
No,
TV
no,
for
no.
3 hours.
Hey,
I've been screaming at my
I'm
TV
going to
for
give
three
it to the
hours.
people. I'm going to give it to the leaders. I'm going to let them just take you where you're supposed to go, because I was thinking of you and I didn't want you to think I was harassing you. So I just didn't call you during the course of the game. And I don't know what to say. So we just want to hear from Mo. What happened?
So I've been doing a lot of reading. And when I say reading, I mean watching TikTok videos. But about something, it's a phenomenon that's happened throughout my life, and I've never really understood it, right? I'm one of those people that can't get things done until they need to be done, right? So I've been reading, aka watching TikTok videos, about it's like a side effect of ADHD or whatever it may be. That
Right.
say, for example, when I was in college and I've got a project due for Friday and it's Monday, I won't start that until midnight on Thursday. And I make my own life more difficult than it needs to be. The
Okay.
Boston Celtics have the same damn condition. It's like every single year, they make their life a million times more difficult than it needs to be. This happened last year with Atlanta in round one. BJ, this was even happening when Kevin Garnett was on the Celtics. Even in 2008, they were playing with their food in round one. And the difference is this year, Kevin Garnett ain't on their roster. They were messing around until they got to the NBA Finals. Kevin Garnett ain't there. Paul Pierce ain't there. Rondo ain't there. Ray Allen ain't there. And if they keep playing around like this, they ain't going to sniff the NBA Finals. Now, it's interesting because I said to a bunch of Miami Heat fans today, I said to them, are you guys watching the game tonight? And, they thought I was trying to gloat. And they were like, nah, I ain't going to watch it. I was like, why not? I ain't staying up till 2 a.m. to watch my team get cooked. I said, you know what? I genuinely believe that you guys can steal one. And they said, what do you mean? I said, it's Eric Spoelstra. He's not going to get swept. He's not going to go down without a fight. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, the Miami Heat went into Boston and stole one. Series tied 1 game apiece. They won 111-101. And the Boston Celtics had an embarrassing performance in this game. Now, it's like, BJ, have you ever played a card game called Uno?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the Uno reverse card?
Yes.
That's what the Miami Heat pulled out tonight. They said, Boston, if you want to shoot a lot of threes and win games by outscoring your opponent from behind the arc, we're going to shoot even more. And guess what? We're going to make them too. The Miami Heat tonight set a franchise record. 23 three-pointers made in the playoffs. They shot the lights out. Jaime Jaquez Jr. scored 3 3-pointers. Jovic scored 3. Caleb Martin scored 5. Tyler Herro scored 6. Hayward Highsmith scored 3. Duncan Robinson scored 2. And Dylan Wright scored 1. That's good for 23 three-pointers. Celtics won the points in the paint. It's like the game one script flipped on its head. And this time, instead of the Miami Heat dominating the paint and the Celtics dominating from outside, the Heat dominated from outside. And it was a very intentional game plan by Eric Spoelstra in the way that he set up his defense for this one. Early on, they were letting kind of Jaylen Brown take control of the game for the Celtics side of things. And maybe that was by design because, if they're not playing their usual drive and kick and move the basketball, then they're not playing their brand of basketball. He did something very interesting. He started guarding Kristaps Porzingis, who's over 7 foot tall, with guys like Tyler Herro and Caleb Martin. And now, BJ, I am 6'2". I'm not 7'2", but I'm pretty sure I could do a better job posting up Tyler Herro than Kristaps Porzingis did tonight. I never seen nothing so weak. I never seen nothing so soft in the NBA playoffs. Porzingis went 1 from 9 from the field, 0 from 4 from 3. Finished in a game they lost by 10 points. Porzingis finished minus 32. An absolutely pitiful performance. Drew Holiday was no better. 4 of 11, 1 from 4 from downtown, 10 points, 9 points even. Tatum had 28, Brown had 33. But the rest of the Celtics just could not get going. They got pretty much nothing from their bench. They got 6 points from Horford, 6 points from Hauser. Peyton Pritchard played 20 minutes and didn't even take one shot. It was an absolute disaster class by the Boston Celtics. And credit to the Miami Heat, they were hitting their shots. But guess what? And this is what really worries me about this team. The shots, and you watched the game, I watched the game. The Celtics weren't contesting those shots. They were letting them shoot. They weren't even trying to contest them. The Miami Heat were shooting practice threes and knocking them down. And yet after the game, Joe Mazzulla and Jaylen Brown say we did a good job contesting their shooters. I'm sorry, but am I watching something different to what they're seeing out there on the court? Because for me, it looked like a lack of effort. It looked like you just assumed you'd beat this team on talent and talent alone. This is a team without Jimmy Butler, without Terry Rozier. You think you're just going to walk in there, get it done. This is the NBA playoffs, and this is Eric Spoelstra, who's summoning the dark arts, some sort of juju magic to find a way to turn guys like Hayward Highsmith into quality playoff players. Shout out to them. And they were letting the Celtics get attack on the inside to not allow them to shoot threes, and it worked out. It worked out. And I want to give a shout out here to Tyler Herro, because he had an awful game one. Game two, he scored 24 points, 7 of 13 from the field. But the part that stood out to me was the 14 assists. The best playmaking I've ever seen from Tyler Herro. And his off-ball play. When I say his off-ball play, meaning the way he was setting screens or ghost screens and getting himself open for shots, was just at an elite level. And, you know, I just think we talk about adjustments in the playoffs. You know, we talk about game 1 to game 2, game 2 to game 3, so on and so forth. I think that Joe Mazzulla has struggled with making adjustments within the game, because guess what, Joe? If they've scored, 16 3-pointers and a half or whatever they scored, maybe it's time to start actually chasing them off the 3-point line, because they're having a hot shooting night. And everyone's like, oh, no, don't worry. It's not like a team is going to put up the 4th most threes in an NBA playoff game. And they're going to do that 4 times in the series. This is what you thought last year in the conference finals, where you lost. Don't let this team start shooting. It doesn't matter who's out there on the roster, BJ. It could be me. I'll probably shoot about 5 threes for Eric Spoelstra and knock down 4 of them. I don't know how he does it. I don't know what he does. But the Boston Celtics should be ashamed on their home court in TD Garden, losing to this team. Embarrassing. Disgraceful. I don't have the energy to be angry. It's like, you know, when your parents tell you off when you're a kid and you've been bad at school. I'm not angry, Mo. I'm just disappointed. And that one hurts more than being angry. You know, when they're mad at you and they scream, you can deal with that. No, I'm not angry, Mo. I'm just disappointed. I expected better from you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard from Mo. Can we go to game 2 now, or are you done with this one?
Talk to me. What do you see?
Well, listen. I've said this before, and I'll say this again about the Celtics. You know, at some point, you know, you'll learn your lesson. You'll learn it the easy way, you're going to learn it the hard way. And this Celtics team, you would hope that they've, you know, that they learn their lessons from years past. When you have an opportunity, you want to take advantage of the opportunity. This team finds a way to make it rough on themselves. They find a way to take the toughest route necessary. Yes, it's a bad loss, but clearly I think this team they're not going to panic. But I think that is a good word.
No, I don't think they're going to panic now, but now you have to go on the road to Miami for 2 games. Let's say you split those 2 games. Now it's a best of 3 series, and the doubt starts creeping in.
I don't, you know, this isn't a talent issue right now. This is an issue where, you know, it's something very apparent with this group. And I will say this, because this isn't just this game. I don't want to I'm not going to pile on them to say, oh, what happened game 2, you know, in the playoffs, and every game is magnified. But here's the most disappointing thing. Whenever there's a game and you got to grind the game out, you got to grind it out. You got to, like the Denver Nuggets the other night, they had to just grind that game out. You know, Oklahoma, they're not even a physical team, but they had to like find a way to just grind the game, and you just keep turning the wheel until you just the Knicks the other night. They didn't play well. They're down whatever 5 points with less than a minute, and they just whenever you have to grind the game, this Boston Celtics team for years. Now this isn't just this year. They cannot win a game when they grind it out. They have to play well in order to compete. That's what bothers me about this team. They can't just, play an average game and win. If you take something away from them, and that something is shooting, I don't know what it is.
The Celtics shot 12 from 32 tonight, by the way. 37%.
Yeah, but the other team shot 53%.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. They just can't, everything has to go. It's kind of like they have a formula. And if anything is off in their formula with their analytics or something, they can't win the game. And I don't know what it is, but they've had such a terrific regular season. They have a team that's capable of winning a championship, but it's almost like they want to find a way. It's almost, but maybe this is who they are.
But it's also this. The one advantage you have about playing Miami in the first round is Eric Spoelstra is so amazing that whatever weakness you have will be found, and he will push that pressure point in the first round. Now, either you find a way to counter that, and you could start working on your own flaws in your game, or you go home in round one like the Milwaukee Bucks did last year. So, I guess that's the silver lining.
Can we finally say this? Eric Spoelstra has finally reached a level that he's a master. He is a true master at his craft. I mean, when you talk about finding a way, putting together a game plan, and have your team believing that we're going to put together a game plan that can give us an opportunity to win a game, and they do it. I mean, Eric Spoelstra was that was simply
and
a
that is a
master's
credit to Pat Riley, because in 2010, LeBron James wanted Eric Spoelstra fired as the coach of the Miami Heat. Now, if he was fired as the coach of the Miami Heat, this never happens.
Eric Spoelstra he's a master. I was fortunate to play in an era where there were many what I considered masters of their craft. Many of them, there was Chuck Daly, there was, Phil Jackson, Don Nelson, Lenny Wilkins, Hubie Brown, Rick Adelman. I mean, they were just great coaches. Mike Fratello. I mean, there were just so many. I know I'm missing some. Pat Riley. I mean, there were just amazing coaches. And I had an opportunity to see this every single night. Like every night I saw something, you know what I mean? There was just like great coaches running great stuff. And Eric Spoelstra, he's right there. I mean, he's right there. I mean, what can you say? Well, I mean, what do you say? Like, if you are a talent, you want to play for a coach like that. I mean, he coaches during the game, his preparation, the culture they have, the way they play. I mean, he plays, it's kind of like he plays a blended brand where they're running stuff, but they're running new stuff. They shoot the threes, but they take it to the basket. I mean, it's just beautiful to watch. He's versatile on defense. They zone, they play man, they get after you. What is there not to like? And he is simply a master. And if anyone wants to coach, just study him, imitate him, mimic him. Tonight was just another example of why he's one of the best. He's one of the best to stand on the sideline. He's just one of the best. Like, he is continuing the tradition of what excellence looks like from the sideline. So your Celtics, they got their work cut out. I still believe they're the best team. I still believe they'll win the series. but this is definitely a little bump in the road.
One thing that I noticed, speaking of like matchups and coaching, they started the game with Bam Adebayo on Jason Tatum, which is what Bam did in the second half, and Jason Tatum really came out firing after struggling in the second half in game one. And what was weird to me is like Jason Tatum's clearly in rhythm, right? He's playing really well. And then you take him out of the game with 5 minutes to go in the first quarter, which is your usual substitution pattern. But this is the NBA playoffs. And like even early on, when Tatum comes out of the game, what was the score when Tatum comes out of the game? Uh, it was a tie game, I think, or the Celtics were up by like 1 or 2 points. Would you not want to leave him in there and continue riding that in the first quarter to establish some sort of lead or establish some sort of dominance?
Well, I don't want to second guess. Things happen. It happens so fast, happen very quickly. Um, but certainly you want to look at all the options. You want to take a look and say, hey, if you can second guess yourself, you can certainly do it. But I don't want to go down that path. Things happen, Mo. Things happen all the time. Teams, there's a lot of times, you say coulda, woulda, shoulda, oughta. But what you don't want to see is continue this trend because you want to get the outcome that you want to get, which is to win the game. And that's something that you definitely, you want to correct. But I'm not going to second guess that.
Well, we talked about Ivica Zubac going to him for post-ups early in the game in the Dallas series, the Clippers series. We talked about Jonas Valanciunas, and I think Willie Green listened to the last podcast because he scored the first 11 points for the Pelicans tonight. It's just the other tall European in the playoffs, Kristaps Porzingis, who can't seem to post anyone up. But I digress. And you've said it all season long. We'll see what he's made of when it comes to the playoffs. And if he doesn't bounce back from this and play with an ounce of toughness, then the Celtics are in some real trouble because teams have found their floor. If you can just guard Porzingis with a guard or a wing and live with it, then the Celtics are in trouble. But let's talk about that Pelicans OKC game
Okay.
because it was a lot less close than you were expecting when we did the preview yesterday. The OKC Thunder came in there and absolutely blew them out at home, 124-92. They got rolling and they did not take their foot off the gas pedal. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander led them with 33 points. Chet Holmgren had 26. Jalen Williams had 21. Lou Dort cashed in 4 out of his 6 threes for 15. He had a fantastic performance from pretty much the entire roster. They shot almost 50% from three as well to win this game. And the rebounding battle, they actually out-rebounded the Pelicans, which is a key point of emphasis for this team who struggles to get rebounds. Like I said before, JB he scored the first 11 points of the game for the Pelicans, right? And you thought, cool, the big man, he's establishing himself inside. The only problem was, on the other end, he was guarding Chet Holmgren and playing drop coverage, which meant Chet could get off a lot of threes, and he had 15 points in the first quarter without missing. So maybe I'll just have to give the defensive game plan ahead of the next game rather than just giving the offensive one. What stood out to you in this game?
Well, the big thing that stood out is the pace in which the game was played at. And, whether you attribute that in game one to nerves, inexperience, or what have you, or maybe the New Orleans Pelicans just played well. I want to give Oklahoma City credit. They did not play well in game one. They didn't really play a game where I think you would look back and go, oh, man, that was a great effort or what have you. They were very fortunate to win this game. And it's kind of like they got that out of their system. And then they came back tonight and said, okay, let's relax and get back to playing basketball how we play. That's what they looked like tonight. I mean, it was a very convincing effort by their team. And, the big fella, Valanciunas, he came out early and was like, he established himself. And they took the punch and they responded. I mean, Mo, I have to give him credit. I didn't think that this team was as resilient as they've shown. I'm not sure what's going on with New Orleans. Something is missing because you look at their talent, but I've been saying that. So I'm not going to even go down that path. But I want to give Oklahoma City credit. I want to give them, they play well. Chet had a big game. He had like 25, 26 points. Shai was Shai. Giddy it was in double figures, I believe. Lou Dort was in double figures. I mean, they really played a nice game and they played well. They won big. They're up 2-0, so they protected home court, which was great. That's why they played the regular season. And now they're gonna, they get a chance to go down there and play on the road, which is a different game. So this New Orleans team, clearly they miss, arguably their best player, okay, and Zion, but that's no excuse. And they just didn't get it done. I mean, they didn't have enough to get it done. I mean, BI had about 18, 20 points or something. And it just something seems to be missing with this group where they can't get over the hump. But I thought this was a winnable game based on what we saw in game one, but they didn't get it done here. They did not get it done here this evening.
If I'm the Pelicans this summer, I'm getting rid of everyone except for Zion, Herb Jones, and Trey Murphy. And maybe I'm keeping Valanciunas if he's going to come off the bench. But that's it. Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, your time here is done. Essentially, the New Orleans Pelicans, you talk about it all the time, a player that can go downhill. They don't have anyone who can handle the ball whilst facing the intensity, like the physicality, the pressure of guys like Lou Dort, for example. And the Thunder have got a bunch of guys that can really defend at the point of attack on whoever's handling the ball. And on the other side, you think, okay, cool. Well, the Pelicans have got Herb Jones. You can put him on Shea and he'll cause them some real problems. But here's the thing. Shea does a great job of getting Herb Jones off of him before he gets the ball. If there's situations in the game where he's been really getting locked up. And, for a casual thinker, you're thinking, oh, well, someone just set a screen for Shea and he can run off it. But what Shea does that he's great at is he is the one who sets the screen and for one of his teammates and forces the switch, and then he'll go and get the ball. And now all of a sudden he can attack whoever he wants to attack rather than having to be guarded by Herb Jones. I don't see the Pelicans doing anything like that. If Lou Dort is blocking up Brandon Ingram, I don't see Brandon Ingram say, all right, cool, hold on, let me go off the ball, get a better matchup and come back and try to go again.
Well, I'm going to say this. When I was watching that Miami game, and I talk about this all the time, playing downhill, right? And because it's very prevalent now in the NBA. You want to find guys who can do it. But you know what I was watching today? I was watching the Miami Heat, and I said, they don't really have a player that can play downhill right now, with the exception of Jimmy Butler, and he doesn't do it consistently anymore. But you know what they do a very good job of doing, Mo? An excellent job of doing? Is they play make. They are constantly making plays for one another. Playmaking is an important part of the game, which kind of fits into what playing downhill does. Like you're putting pressure on the defense and you're forcing the defense to make a commitment one way or another. And then it's up to the player who's creating this chaos, a la Anthony Edwards last night. He was doing a great job of playmaking. So when you watch New Orleans tonight, well, no one makes a play for one another. Think about what I just said. They don't have any playmakers on their team. Just think about, like I was watching the night because I keep saying, what is going to, okay, Herb Jones, you got to like him. Trey Murphy, you got to like him.
He's an all-NBA defender, and he shot
Valanciunas.
three.
You
Trey
get
Murphy,
19
defender, and he can make big shots.
You get 19 points from your big guy in a center position. Like you get 19, 20 points there. You get, you got Brandon Ingram. You got CJ McCollum. What is going on with this team? And I was watching tonight and I said, there is no one on their team who makes plays. They don't do anything that resembles playmaking for one another. They kind of like take turns. Like, well, your turn, then it's your turn. We'll play 5 out with draw and kick, but there's no playmaking. And, I don't know if it's because they're not capable of it or it's not an emphasis, but clearly it's not a talent issue. And I think that's probably the most disappointing thing. And I'm sure it's disappointing to them.
It's also this, right? If you have a team with no playmakers, Brandon Ingram, who you say is their best player, in the first half, he played 17 minutes, took 2 shots and made 1 basket. If the team's not making plays for each other, that's when this best player on the team has to step up and say, I'm going to make a play. That's what the role of the best players do. Like the Mavericks, if they're going through a bad offensive stretch, Luka says, give me the damn ball. You guys go stand around and I'm going to make a play for one of you or I'm going to get a shot myself.
Yeah.
LeBron, that's the same
It's
thing he does. Jokic, that's the same thing he does. Giannis, that's the same thing he does. Like when you're the star of the team, or if you want to be the star of the team, you've got to be able to go out and it is the NBA playoffs.
But just because you're the starter team doesn't mean that you have the capability to do that. I mean, you just named off like 3 or 4 MVPs. I mean, that's not fair. That's not fair to anybody. You know, it's only so many of those type of players. Okay. And right now, everyone's trying to figure out who they are and what they are. And it doesn't always have to fall on the shoulders of the best player to do that. Okay. There's other players on the team. But if there's a glaring weakness with this group, I was watching them tonight. I was like, they don't have a player that has any playmaking ability. Like, they're really good individual players. They're very talented players. But they don't have anyone that just kind of facilitates the offense. And that is a problem. Because when you look at it, who wouldn't want to have those players on their team? Like all 5 of those guys.
I wouldn't want to have CJ McCollum.
Yeah, that's fine. That's you can have your opinion, but he's still a good player.
He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's a very good player. He finished tonight with 15 points, 1 of 5 from 3.
He's still a good player. I mean,
he's a good player, but we're talking about the playoffs and you want to get to the conference finals.
Yeah, it's just, but again, that's the job of the executives and the coaches to put players in where they're going to excel. So, but we'll see. Maybe they go home, they get a little, good cooking down there in New Orleans and tie it up and bring it back. Who knows? But these first 2 games, it just became obvious to me after watching Miami. Because I was like, how's Miami doing it? Miami, Tyler Hero, he was just making plays. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, those guys make plays for one another. Bam Adebayo makes plays.
Well, how much of this can you coach to put up to coaching and how much you put up to personnel?
Well, again, I say this all the time, right? I say this, and I love it when people say, this new age NBA or newer version of the NBA. The NBA will never change. It's the same thing. But what changes is you got to find new ways to do it because these defenses that these coaches put together. I mean, some of them are really sophisticated. You got to have combinations of what you do, right? You got to disguise your offense. You just can't go 5 out. You can't just go, isolation. You have to move the defense around. Imagine this. You have to move the defense around a little bit before you actually attack it. Who knew? Who knew that was actually a philosophy?
Dribble, shoot.
Like when you watch the Miami Heat play, they actually pass the ball and cut. They actually pass the ball from one side of the floor to the other and work from the weak side. Who knew that you could do such a thing? Who knew that you can actually drive the ball to the basket and try to get fouled so you could set up your defense?
James Harden.
This is what I'm saying. Like, who knew that was when you watch them, they do 3 things. Okay?
The Pelicans you're talking about here.
No, I'm talking about the Miami Heat. They do 3 things. The Miami Heat do 3 things. First of all, they play good defense. They try to get a stop. And in any transition situation, the first thing they try to do is to get a layup. The second thing they do is they try to get fouled. And then the third thing they do is try to get an open shot. And the open shot more times than not in transition or any scramble situation is a 3-point shot.
And how does that differ to other teams? What do other teams try to do?
They're just right. How many times do you just see guys casually jog down and just pull up and shoot a 3?
You're trying to make me mad.
No. No, I'm not trying to make you mad. Bo, you see this all the time. Bo, they're not even running to the basket anymore. How many times do you see guys on a fast break situation, they'll just run to the 3-point line on a 2-on-1 or 3-on-1?
Yeah, they're playing the analytics.
Okay. The analytics should say score the basketball, get a layup. Try to get fouled. Why? Because, Bo, the analytics say that it is more difficult to score 5 versus 5 than 4 versus 3 or 3 versus 2. So why wouldn't you try to get fouled so you can get your defense set? The analytics say an uncontested shot is a higher percentage than a contested shot. How many double step backs do we have to see before the analytics will say that that is true? So we keep saying we play on the analytics. Well, Mo, I just gave you 3 examples where it's clear that the analytics is not supporting in the way that they're playing. The layup is still the highest percentage shot. It's a higher percentage shot than the 3. We all say, how many times do we say this? You got to you got to play defense. Defense wins championships. Why wouldn't you get fouled so you can set your defense up? Like, how many times have you seen a team win a championship without playing good defense? You won't see it. So why wouldn't you do that? And then, Mo, why wouldn't we try to get as many uncontested shots as we can? Ball movement, player movement. So what part of the game is the analytics supporting here? So I guess the analytics is regular season basketball, and I guess championship caliber basketball is a totally different game, I see. Because all championship teams try to get as many uncontested shots as they can. And the team normally who gets to the free throw line, more times than not, they win the game. Why? Because their defense is set. How many times do you hear coaches say, our transition defense is bad? Quick shots, quick rebounds, long shots, long rebounds. So what part of the analytics are we looking at here? Or are we just saying what we want to say? Because that just seems like common sense when you look at the game, especially if we want to address the highest percentages, the high percentage chance of trying to win a game.
It's ironic we're talking about this because the analytics for the season say that a Kristaps Porzingis post-up is one of the most efficient ways to score the basketball. And we've just watched a game where that did not happen at all, not once.
Well, let me tell you something. I mean, to Boston's credit, I've seen this strategy before. You know who would do that strategy all the time? He was the master at it, was Don Nelson. Don Nelson would purposely put a small guy on your big guy, and it would throw you off because what's the first thing you do when you have a mismatch? You stop running your offense. That's why it's important to have an offensive philosophy. And if you have your offense philosophy and if it's built on sound principles, ball movement, player movement, the ball will always find the weakest link.
Because the post-ups Porzingis was getting in regular season came after actions where the ball was moving and it's late in a shot clock, but giving him the ball is a turnaround jump shot.
Ladies and gentlemen, I couldn't have told Mo this. It's just common sense. When your offense is built on sound principles, and one of the principles is ball movement, player movement. So when you put your small defender on a mismatch, it forces the team to collectively figure out what's going on here. And you have to have, it's a key word to winning a championship. You must have the discipline to do the right thing. You must have the discipline to say, okay, they're guarding Porzingis with a small guy. We're going to continue to run our offense. We're going to move the defense. And at the proper time, we're going to dive Porzingis to the box to exploit that. And Porzingis' job is to do the right thing. Clearly, they have to double team him or do something. And they didn't have the discipline to do it. it became like a distraction to them. They got away from having this discipline to really take advantage because Porzingis, for the most part, this year, he was making the right play. Smaller guy was on him, he would dive to the basket. The bigger guy was on him, he'd pop out. You try to run him off the line, he'd drive and dunk it or drive and kick or whatever. Tonight, they were distracted. Now, I've seen this strategy. That's why it's important for your team to have more in their toolbox than just a 5-out offense and we're just going to shoot threes. It doesn't work. These coaches they can disguise their defensive strategy. They can play matchup zones now. They can play zone and ones. They can play zone and, triangle and two. They can do all sorts of things. Now we're going to see what Boston's going to do. I think they will be much better. I think they will showcase their discipline. And I think they will take advantage of it. But tonight, they look to confuse some of the times on the offensive end. I mean, and they were. I mean, and that's what good coaching does. It disrupts your offensive flow. And that's what happened tonight.
Well, moving forwards, let's predict tonight's matchups. Cleveland, Orlando. The series shifts back to Orlando. Can they get on the board, or do you think Cleveland are going to steamroll this?
I'm going to say Cleveland. Cleveland's going to win. Cleveland, I think, should win this series. Okay, but things change in a hurry. You never know. But I'm going to say Cleveland. I think Cleveland is going to take them out. I just think they're inexperienced, and they have so much to overcome. Hopefully Jalen Suggs. He came back. He did come back and play, but he got hurt last game. But give him credit. I think they're going to put up a fight. But I'm going to say the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I think I'll go with you on that one. But what about the Knicks and the Sixers? Who have you got for that? Because the last time we spoke about it, it sounded like you were going for the Sixers back at home.
I'm going for the Sixers. I mean, this series is up 2-0. The Knicks fans are going crazy right now.
But so I had a Knicks fan comment, and he said, because Philly's so close, the Knicks fans are buying up the tickets for the game, and they're going to be filling out the arena. I'm going with the Knicks.
Okay, I respect that.
And do you know why I'm going with the Knicks? Because Brunson's not had a good game yet. And do I think Brunson is going to have 3 bad games in a row? I don't see the likelihood of a player of his caliber having 3 bad games in a row.
I would like to think that he hasn't had a good game. But if I remember correctly, but again, I haven't, I'm not watching the game. I'm not studying the game. You know what I mean? When I say study, I'm not watching it 2 or 3 times. Because that's when you study the game, you can find out really, really what's happening here. Brunson had 29 shots in game 2. And he had about 25 or 6 or I don't know shots in game 1. Okay. He's had almost 60 shots in 2 games at the point guard position. All right. So he's put up enough shots to get a rhythm. He's not playing bad. He's just being defended very well.
I'm going to say that 29 again. And 8 of 26 and 1 of 6 from 3 and 1 of 6 from 3.
He's not playing bad. He's getting up. Mo, if you said you're going to have 60 shots in 2 games, well, that's on you.
But I feel like he's going to start making some of those. Say he gets up another 25, 30 shots. I feel that he's going to make more than 8.
I'll say it again. Mo, he's at the point guard position. He's got up 60 shots. I am watching him give Kelly Oubre and Nicholas Batum and Joel Embiid, give those guys credit. They're defending him extremely well. Now, because, and I know Coach Thibodeau, a shot is one of the principles of a sound offense. Why? Because it forces penetration. Because if they are helping, like they are helping, okay, he's not being defended by one guy and everyone's staying home. Now, he's been defended by multiple defenders. And how do I know this? It's because Isaiah Hardenstein is his offensive rebounding stats are incredible. How many offensive rebounds did he have in the last game?
In the last game, Isaiah Hartenstein, offensive rebounding. Let me check that for you real quick. On the offensive glass, he had 4 offensive rebounds.
Okay. Isaiah Hartenstein and these guys, they are doing a really good job of offensive rebounding because they're so committed to Jalen Brunson. Now, I don't think Jalen Brunson is playing bad other than he's not shooting well. But because he's not shooting well, the other guys are picking up the slack by having opportunities to offensive rebound. I would have thought maybe it was in game 1 or I thought it was in game 2 where Isaiah almost had like double figures in offensive rebounds. Okay, and one of those games, what did he have in game 1, Mo? Well, how many offensive rebounds did he have?
Game because 1, game 1 of this series, he had 5 offensive rebounds.
Okay.
But Jalen Brunson had 5 and Josh Hart had 4. And then
Okay.
Mitchell Robinson came off the bench with 7 offensive rebounds.
Yeah, so as I'm saying, like that's why I'm not really concerned about his shooting. Is when you get those type of numbers from the offensive rebounds from your team, that means that they are over helping, and that's why they can't get back. So I'm okay with that. Get the shot up, and then that's what made Joakim Noah, for instance, with those Chicago Bulls teams. Derrick Rose, just get the shot up, and then our job is to get the offensive rebound. And I think that's the same philosophy that you're seeing here. So that doesn't concern me as much as the fact that, what concerns me is I think Philly can play much better. And I think they will play better at home. Now, I don't know how the big fella's health will be. Talking about Joel Embiid, he doesn't even look 80, 90% to me.
He doesn't look alive at some points. I don't know how he's on the court. I don't know how he's playing when like half of his forehead doesn't even frown and the eye doesn't blink. And I really hope he's okay, because otherwise this is gross negligence by the Sixers medical staff by letting him go out there on the court. But at least this time he doesn't have to walk up that long ramp in Madison Square Garden. So it should be a better game for him. But the final game of the night, the interesting one for me, the Nuggets and the Lakers. Because if the Nuggets win this, I'm getting the broom out. This is a must win for the Lakers, even though it's not an elimination game. Game 3 in LA. They gave it their best shot. They got up 20 in game 2. The Nuggets still found a way to win. A devastating, heartbreaking buzzer beater from Jamal Murray. Who have you got winning this one?
I have to believe that the Lakers are going to win one.
This is what I said. I went on a show today and I said, there's no way you lose 10 straight times to someone and you can't get one back. How? And also on the flip side of that, once you beat a team 10 times in a row and you realize you could be down 20 in the second half and still win, that might just provoke a little bit of relaxedness in the Nuggets back of their minds and their subconscious. And I think the Lakers have to win this one. I think losing 10 times in a row against a team, especially a team that swept you last year, I think the Lakers have to win this one. And I'm going to pick the Lakers.
Well, listen, I don't think when you say a must game, this is a must game.
That is exactly what I said. Yeah.
This is exactly. So they're going to have to do something. It's just disappointing, like when you lose to a team this much, what happens? You start blaming. You start blaming one another.
Well, LeBron started blaming the refs.
You start blaming the refs. You start blaming the coaches. You start blaming.
Darvin Ham started blaming the refs. Lakers fans started blaming Darvin Ham, but they've been doing that for years now.
Right. So I just hope that the Lakers can find a way to compete. Because let me tell you something. Being on both sides, I've been on both sides. I've been the team that's, the team has your number, they have your number. Okay. It's not like the Lakers can play. What? Lakers were up 20 and still lost. Like that's, that's just.
Mm-hmm. That's how my friends feel when they play 2K against me. It don't matter
Yeah,
what they're doing. I don't even have to look
yeah,
at the TV
yeah.
for the first half of the game.
So here's the thing. You're up 10, and those guys are going to be like, well, that's not safe. You're up 15, and you're going, well, that's not safe. And then at home, when Denver starts making a comeback, they go, here we go again. I don't like this position that the Lakers are in because the Lakers haven't established at any point in the last couple of years that they can beat this team. And if you win the game, that's your bad game. It's like the ugly game that you play every. There's always a game where you just whatever, the ball doesn't bounce right. You don't play well. It's like game 1 for the Oklahoma City Thunder was like, oh, that was just ugly game.
Do you want to know something funny, BJ? The last time the Lakers beat the Nuggets, Russell Westbrook got a triple-double for the Lakers.
Yeah.
And yet he's the one everyone blamed for their struggles. Just think about that.
Yeah. I'm just going to say
they
better win. They better
by the
win.
way, I hope you mentioned the other day some of the Clippers staff listened to the show. I hope they saw what we saw and taking Russell Westbrook out of the game against the Mavericks. I think that's what lost you the game. We need to see more from Westbrook if they want to win the series because the energy that team plays with when he's in. But that's a conversation for tomorrow when we preview that matchup for game 3. But are you going with the Lakers to win this one?
Yeah, I have to, but I think Denver's going to win.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I mean, out of respect, I want to say the Lakers have to win. I mean, I can't even imagine what that would be like being down 3-0. I mean, you would love it, but I mean, it would be. It's an awful look.
I don't need the Celtics to win. I just need the Lakers to lose. That's how much of a hater I am.
Yeah. And if they were down 3-0, they would just pack it in. I think they would pack it in, and you never like to see that. But I don't know how they're going to lose this game, but they better find a way.
Mm-hmm.
Just find a way.
Mm-hmm.
Win this game. All right, lose game 4 and then go home, lose game 5. Okay, all right. You can live with that. I mean, to get swept, come on.
Second year in a row get swept by the
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I would love it. I would love it. But that's another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the show, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your show podcast from. And I'm going to go and be depressed about the Boston Celtics for a little bit longer until the Lakers lose tomorrow and I can be happy again. But until next time, my good people, get buckets.